Hey everybody, another edition of Damian and DEO on YouTube on a Friday. And if you followed us last week or at any other point in the last couple of weeks, you would know that on Fridays we do Shoot the Shit. That's one. Number two, Damian doesn't know, because that seems to be really funny for a lot of people, as well as just the stuff that you would normally hear after dark, because there might be some conspiracy theories, some crypto zoology, just some random nonsense that may not make the light of day. But fortunately today we're doing it early because there's light outside, so it's not after dark. So
it's light here too. I just have the curtains closed because I want that mood lighting. Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, Dio likes to set his stuff up like he's on a date.
Oh yeah, like this is I gotta set the mood. Come on, man.
It's like how you do it type stuff anytime when you're in Dio's house.
Exactly. Yes.
So today, I honestly, for the folks at home, and as always, Damian G7 on Twitter, I'm just DEO for Dio as well. I had nothing because the last day and a half, I've either been wrestling out. I'm just tired of wrestling for a minute and the culture. Number two, human beings are dumb.
Yeah, very.
Based on some of the decisions that are being made across the country regarding opening up states and public frolicking. And I brought this up on Big Gold Belt last night, that during the UFC fight, a restaurant had the patio open while showing the UFC fights last Saturday.
Yeah.
So I am tired.
Yeah.
I am tired of just being a human for a minute. And today is that antidote. So I got nothing in terms of just major contributions to this show, aside from just moderating, hosting. And I'm going to let Dio do a lot of the heavy lifting of this episode, to be quite honest.
Do this.
So, my friend, my brother, you have the floor. What is the first topic on Random-ish Friday you want to discuss?
So random stuff. We're going to talk about some crypto zoology. Start out with some interesting stuff, right? Some weird, some plausible, and then others where it's like, okay, what? But so start off with, this is one people may have heard about it. Like if you've ever watched any of the mythical monster things on like Discovery Channel and shit before those became like weird money grab channels, like for Shark Week and all that other nonsense. So it's there's one called the Mokele Mbembe. And
do that again?
Yes, the Mokele Mbembe.
Mbembe, got it.
So what this is a sauropod. As people like think brontosaurus, all of the long-necked dinosaurs that ate, stuff off trees, even though they were way bigger than trees and such. Think like that, but smaller. And this has been a thing ever since ever since European explorers came down to the Congo Basin. They started to hear more and more of these tales of this gigantic, reptile type, long neck reptile thing that can it lives in rivers and then it ventures out into the forest and all this other weird stuff. But the thing is, it gets murky because Africa specifically is a vastly large country. The globes that we know in school are very, very, very inaccurate in showing the scale of places. That's why, because they wanted to show the prominence of Europe and specifically England. That's why England, which is a very, very, very small area in as far as the globe goes, shows up damn near as large as the top of Africa, which is like the smallest countries in Africa are bigger than England. So that's one of the things why a lot of people tend to think like, oh yeah, Africa's fucking huge. You can take 4 or 5 other continents and put them into Africa. That's how big Africa is. It's huge. So it similar to the oceans. There's so much of the continent that has not been explored by Westerners, right? Many of these places have been explored by the indigenous people of the areas, and this is where a lot of these myths come from, because they are trying to make sense with the knowledge and folklore that they have in order to make things make sense. Because a lot of these things are actual animals or are based off of multiple animals that have kind of been fused together over thousands upon thousands of years. And the Mokele Mbembe is, from what they've gathered, it's supposed to be like a smaller sauropod. And the thing is, every time they go out on expeditions on things like this, like just like with damn near every other expedition to find a cryptid, they'll get to a place and like you'll have villagers be like, "Oh, it was just here. It was just here. It was just here." But like there will be evidence of things left behind, like trees snapped in half, or all these other things. There will be so many eyewitness accounts of it that it's like, okay, when you have this many people saying something exists, maybe it actually might. And since Africa is so big, the forests are so dense, and they have found animals that didn't make any sense. Like one of them specifically was the okapi, which is like when they were like, "Oh yeah, it's part giraffe, part zebra, part horse." And people were like, "What are you talking about? That makes no sense, and that does not exist." Come to find out, it does exist, and it's it is in the same family as giraffes. I will pull up a picture for you.
I'm just picturing some dilapidated Pokemon when you describe that.
It looks like a Pokemon. Yeah, it does.
And if you played Pokemon, there's one called Giraffic. When you say that, it reminds me of Giraffic. Let me share this to the stream. Whoa.
That is an okapi.
That's the okapi. Okay.
Right. So that is a small, the way that it was described by villagers, people were like, "That's bullshit. There's no way that thing exists." So with that, they're using the same principles for like the Mokele Mbembe. They're like, maybe this might exist because Africa is so diverse, and they constantly find new animals every year. There's new things found. And same thing with like, there was a portion of time where like the population of like silverback gorillas were super low, and then out of the blue they found thousands of them just chilling in an area that they had not explored yet because the forest was too dense to get through. And like I don't think people realize like how dense like forests, like rainforests are, like especially in Africa. They're far less dense in South America than they used to be due to, clear cutting for trees to make farmland and all that type of stuff. But like you can go into a forest and that's it. You disappear. There's nobody will ever find you again if you get lost. Just because like there's so much life in the forest that like if you die, say you have a heart attack or something like that, your body will be gone in days, if not a day, because things will like once this process of decomposition starts, flies, vultures, ravens, crows, all that type of stuff are going to come start picking at you. And then once the bugs show up, then that's it. That's just gone. Yeah, your body will just be gone. So, but
nature's a bitch, isn't it?
Nature is a motherfucker. Like there is some stuff that you will learn about when it comes to nature that is just like, this is terrifying. Like some of the creatures that like do exist, like we talked about, like the giant squid, the colossal squid, and other things like that. Like there's the megamouth shark. There's a whole bunch of weird ass sharks. Really, the goblin shark. It's another one.
What?
The goblin shark is terrifying.
Why do I get the sense that Nintendo is literally sending people out to find random animals to put in Pokemon games now?
It looks like a Pokemon. It absolutely does. Like it is. You get some of these things that is like, okay, whoever was responsible for evolution plays too goddamn much because this is bullshit, bro. What? So let me get some of these of the Goblin Shark. It's not a huge shark, but still, it is fucking terrifying.
Right. And just to remind the audience, today's Friday, so we are talking about random crypto zoology, conspiracy theories, and Damian doesn't know here on Damian and DEO on YouTube, youtube.com/Damian G.
Yeah. So, all right. Got a couple of the regular pictures, got some GIFs. I don't care if you guys don't like me saying GIF, because that's how I'm going to say it. The creator called it a GIF.
Didn't Hokai call it GIF?
And the creator of the fucking thing called it a GIF. So
yes.
His mama called him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay.
His name ain't Antoine if his name is Clay. You know what I'm saying?
So, all right. So the Goblin Shark is nightmare fuel.
Isn't that a drink?
Probably. It's probably
nightmare
some stuff
fuel?
that like that is a
what
goblin.
The hell is that?
That's a goblin shark. Okay. So jaws stay retracted, and then when it eats, they shoot out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yo, I thought the front was its back, but the back is its front. Oh.
No. And that is how the jaws come out.
Oh, so like y'all can't see my face, but
so like every video game that you've ever seen, it is like a lot of these terrifying things exist in like there is a lot of things that they found them in like for reference points in actual nature. So yeah, but there's so that was a simple one, the Mokele and Mbembe, because like some people think it actually could exist. There's a bunch of reasons why it probably won't exist. Just because something that large, you're likely going to, the larger something is, the easier it is to spot.
Right.
And you know, we spot elephants all the time, and elephants, they've been hunted damn near to extinction in some places, but you can still find them. So if you had something that's as big as an elephant, you're probably going to find it. And that's one of the things that a lot of times they think that's what it is. It's an elephant. Because if you are, say you are in a lake or a river and you see something come up out of the water that looks like a head. So think elephant trunk comes up out of the water, because that's how they breathe. And the thing is, other people don't know is, well, a lot of people don't know is that elephants can swim. Like they're very good at swimming as well. Like they can swim long distances, actually, because their bodies, when you when you breathe in as much as they do, plus the fat content and such, they float. So, but they're right underneath the, right underneath the surface, and they usually have their trunks above as they float. So if you see this thing that looks like a head at the top of the water looking around, what are you going to think? Nah, I'm not going to think it's an elephant, which is already a weird looking fucking animal. I'm going to think, oh yeah, it might be a giant dinosaur thing. So, then that's one of the things that the human brain does, is it will try to make sense of what it's seen using logic that it already has, right? So if you've never experienced this thing yet, you're going to go back to what your brain is familiar with, and it's going to piece stuff together for it to make sense, even if it ends up being some fantastical nonsense. So, yeah.
So let me ask you a question about elephants in general. Okay. Yeah. From what we know and what we see on television and in circuses and things of that nature, humans' propensity to want to ride an elephant while, let's say, in Thailand, for instance,
bad, all bad.
Should that be outlawed?
Absolutely, because there's no way to. It's not like with a horse where you essentially scare it into submission, making it trust you. Like you create the thing that it's running from, and you are the thing that comforts it. That's essentially how horses tend to get tamed a bit, or because like you can break a horse as far as like tying it down and basically forcing its will away, or the other way is how they will like essentially they take like a rope and like they throw it kind of behind the horse, and since horses can't see behind, they have a very wide field of view, but behind it they don't know, so they're going to run from it, and then you end up being the person that is going to comfort them, and eventually they'll get tired of running from that thing and they come to you for comfort, and then it stops. That's one of the ways that I've seen it done. But you can't do the same thing with an elephant. There's no way to do it humanely. It's just not possible. How they actually do that is they use to like ride the elephants. It's a wooden stick with a hook at the end of it, and it digs into the elephant's body. That's the only way that you're going to get an animal that goddamn big to allow you to ride it is through pain. So it's the other thing too. Elephants are insanely smart. They have memories. Like, how like they talk about, oh yeah, like, elephant never forgets. There is a lot of proof or a lot of evidence that they have insanely long memories. Like elephants that will have met each other when they were both in essentially the toddler phase of their growth will see each other 15, 20 years later after they've been separated in two different circuses and remember who they are immediately just off of smell. So you have that. They mourn their dead. Like a lot of animals mourn their dead. Elephants will mourn their dead. They are intelligent, as in like they can figure, like you can see they are poking at a body trying to see, and once they know it's dead, like it's like they also, animals have language just like we have language. They will let out cries that are nothing like the other stuff that they use on a regular basis. So you have a lot. It shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be. Plus, elephants need space in the hundreds of miles range. Same thing with like tigers and stuff like that. But to keep them, like for a circus, you have to keep them inside of a tiny pen when you move from place to place to place. The only way to keep these things in line is through punishment. So that's why so many of like Ringling Brothers and all of those, they've had to get rid of a lot of these attractions because now people know. And, like with SeaWorld, how they had to like get rid of like the orcas and stuff because of blackfish, because people finally saw this is bad. This is really bad, especially when you have animals that are super intelligent. And it used to be like when they thought of intelligence, they used a very strict human way of it. And even the way that they test intelligence in humans is very much based off of Western academia, which is not, it's not going to test. Like you can have someone, say you took someone from, we'll go take it back to like the year 1210, right? Mm-hmm. You could take someone from Europe. You could take an Aborigine person from Australia, someone from what is now Mali in Africa, Chile in South America, and a indigenous American in the United States. You could take all of them, put them into one room. If you test them all on using Western standards, the person in Europe is going to be considered to be more intelligent. Just because these people aren't going to have the language, they're not going to have the same skill set because they might figure things out a different way. But if you then take all of them and put them out into the wilderness, these other groups may have a knowledge of their surroundings and the earth in a way that the person from Europe didn't, right? So that's one of the biases that they've had in academia for a very long time. So when you take that and you apply that to animals, it makes things even weirder, right? Because you have some like one of the criteria for like intelligence and stuff, or rather being what is the word that I am looking for? Like when you know that like if you look into the mirror and you can recognize that that's you and not another animal, right? Cats are one of the animals that do this. Like you can go look up on the internet and you can see videos of cats that will like go back and forth in the mirror and then like reach up and like touch their ear to make, and they're like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm like, elephants do that. Some species of dog or some breeds of dogs can do that. So you have, a lot of primates can do that as well. But it's like, you can do the same thing. There are some fish that are super intelligent as well. Some fish that actually use tools. So you have it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Wait, fish that know how to use tools.
Fish that use tools, yes. So like specifically, if you go and watch I don't think it was Blue Planet. It was the Planet Earth series. So basically, this fish went and got some mollusk that was in a shell and swam over to this little rocky like bowl shaped coral thing, and you could see that there were shells all inside of it. It's like, oh, that's weird. The fish then proceeded to bash the mollusk onto one of the sharpened edges on the rock until it cracked open, and then it could eat what was on the inside. That's tool. That's like using a tool 101 right there. So, and you have a bunch of other things like crows, ravens, all of the corvid things are very intelligent. Like you have crows in Japan, which the crows in Japan are humongous, that have figured out, well, I can't crack open this walnut. So I'm going to go and put it into the like the crosswalk where cars go by, and eventually a car is going to run over this nut, and then I can go and grab what was on the inside of it. So you have that. You have birds that can figure out puzzles. Like that's a super, like for you to figure out a puzzle to get to food, that takes a level of complexity that toddlers can't do. So you have an animal who has a brain that is a fraction of the size of a human being, but it's able to figure things out that children can't figure out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but when it comes to elephants and things, definitely shouldn't have them. Like even certain animals, like, and I feel bad about it. My girlfriend's like, she stopped eating pork because of this reason, and I'm like, I do feel bad that I still eat pork. But basically, pigs are one of the few animals that know that they are being led to slaughter.
Oh,
and you can, and it's one of the things like I think they like let off a hormone in their body that can actually make their meat taste bad. It's a whole thing. That's like
that sounds like another documentary, man.
That's a long,
that's a 2-hour show.
Yeah, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because then you end up in the slaughterhouse videos, and it's bad.
No, I'm good. I've had enough people talk to me about looking at the slaughterhouse videos, and
it's bad.
I don't eat pork anymore. I stopped eating pork. I've started to give tofu a chance.
I can't do tofu. No.
So I'm trying to be a little bit more humane, even though I don't like
hot pot. Let me say that actually.
I don't like being hit over the head constantly.
Right. With it, like the pretentious vegans. I'm like, bro, shut up, bro. I don't want to hear any of your nonsense right now. Because
that's why a lot of people cringe when they hear that someone's a vegan, because they have this automatic assumption that people are going to get their ear talked off about the benefits of veganism.
Oh yeah, and like a lot of times when like I run into people that are vegan, they're like, "Oh yeah, all of this stuff that you're doing to the animals is bad for the planet, and this is that and the other." I was like, okay, so if we all switched over to a vegetarian or a vegan diet, right? Yes. And two, if you're a vegan, if you are wearing wool or anything of that nature, you can go to hell. That's hypocrisy at its highest level. or any type of fabric that comes from an animal.
But I'm not eating it though. I'm just wearing it.
Doesn't make sense. That's actually worse.
I've heard that excuse. That's why I say it. I've heard
Right.
someone tell me that.
So you have that. But if we switched over to a completely vegetable-based diet, you understand how quickly we would go through our food sources? Like we'd be doomed if we didn't change the way that we like agriculture. And like one day what's going to happen is somebody's going to find the technology to whereas we can hear and understand what plants actually process, what they're going through. So when that happens and you realize that plants are alive too, because that's the thing, plants are alive.
Did no one watch The Happening?
Not even the Happening, right? You've seen a Venus flytrap, right?
Yes.
When something lands on it, it snatches shut. Sunflowers will turn.
I've seen sunflowers turn
to face the sun. You have plants that recoil when they are touched. You have all of these things, but y'all are like, but plants aren't alive. You know what? Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
So like, I want to continue with the theme of going down the rabbit hole really quick. And last week the Crypto Zoology was one thing, and we talked off air a couple weeks ago, and you and I have been doing this religiously, is learning about the more mundane or funny conspiracy theories or just random conspiracy theories that make you go, huh,
right,
interesting. And I'm not talking about flat earth. I'm not talking about, reality shifting or The Secret. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stuff that you're literally perusing Netflix or YouTube at 1 a.m, as I'm prone to do, and I find a random top 10 list of creepypastas or, anything of that nature. Right. So I know you have a couple. So give me a couple of those.
Of the creepypasta things. So one thing I'll talk about first is we'll go with the Slenderman one first.
Sure.
Just because that is the most modern urban legend. And the thing is, the wild part about it was we watched it from creation. We have experienced its creation, the dissemination amongst the internet, how people took it and ran with it, and how it then affected the real world. Like not just it having its own movie and references and other works of art and such, but the fact that people were getting killed or attempted, like kids attempted to kill another kid to get the attention of Slenderman because they didn't know. I mean, we don't know what was going through these kids' heads because they are kids, brains are still developing, all that type of stuff. But like with the Slenderman, it was created 2009, I believe. Slenderman. Yep.
Didn't a girl kill her friend?
They attempted to.
Okay.
Two teens attempted to kill. Like they stabbed the hell out of that girl. But it was. So yeah, it was first appearance was on the Something Awful website where like people would post a lot of different it was like one of the predecessors to like the creepypasta type stuff. So scary things and such. And it was June 10th, 2009. And like then it went from there. People saw it. It was like somebody photoshopped a picture, and then people created a mythos out of it. And then once that started to spread, it grew and it grew as many arms as the legend of it actually has when it comes to the internet, because it reached everywhere to the point that there were two girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, that attempted to kill. It was Anissa Wire and Morgan Geyser. Attempted to kill Peyton Leutner, which is one of their friends, to get the attention of the Slenderman.
And what after that whole, let's say you summon Slenderman, what's the point? Just to get him to come out and be like, hey, what's up?
I mean, it's the same thing that we had in like the 90s with 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s with Bloody Mary, and then
Got
for
it.
the 90s with Candyman, right? Candyman's another one.
I still won't say that. Nope.
I mean, but like he was a urban legend that was created from a movie. So like,
shout out to Tony Todd, by the way.
The best. And I love the fact that he's working on the new one as well. Great stuff. And he is like one of the OG scary looking actors. Like,
yes,
always. He can't play anything that is not creepy just because he's a creepy looking dude.
Amazing actor. Even in Final Destination, when he was the autopsy, the coroner,
right?
And he was just talking about death and the way death operates.
Yep.
The way he delivered those lines, creepy as hell.
Creepy as hell. Yeah. So that was one of the things. So that was the most interesting recent one because we got to see it from birth to where it is now. It eventually ended up having a movie.
There was a movie on Slenderman?
Yeah, there was a Slenderman movie that came out. When did that come out?
I'm just
2018. There was a Slenderman movie
on Netflix.
Not on Netflix. This was released in the theaters.
Okay.
It had a budget of like 10 to 28 million dollars, and it made 51 mil. So that's a success. Like, you know, when you have a fucking internet meme that can garner that much money, shoot.
Yes. Best believe.
Yeah. So that was one of the most recent ones that we can come up with. But we've got like the OG stuff, like the Men in Black, that has been like a thing since like the 50s.
Not the movie,
but
talking about the dudes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the movie is based off of this theory of the Men in Black. Yes. And
Polybius, for instance.
Right. So the Men in Black, it's like this is linked to like UFO conspiracy theories, cryptid and supernatural things. Like a lot of times people see them as like the gatekeepers, like they are like the task force for the government that keeps everybody in check. They keep the UFO things under wraps, and you know, if there's a Bigfoot or a werewolf in your area, the Men in Black are the ones that come to cover things up. And it's interesting because you've had situations caught on camera where people will come, like there's one in particular, like these two dudes, both of them bald, walk like bald, no eyebrows, according to the people at the hotel, no body hair whatsoever. They looked like they had like poorly put on red lipstick because their lips were very red for some reason. They walked in looking for a specific person that was at the hotel, and it's a hotel. You cannot say this is where this is who we have in the thing because of privacy laws. Right. And like they demanded it, and then finally like they were like, you need to leave, and they left. And the thing is, this is all caught on the security camera of the thing. And what they said is like people were like, oh well, the people that were at the desk were like, they talked like robots, they sounded like robots, they had very like flat affects. They were not, there was no discernible accent. And yeah, like you've had other situations where people were like confronted. They come home, they walk inside, and there's a man in black. Usually it's a person, Caucasian man, no body hair. The red lipstick thing seems to be a thing. Top hat, sunglasses, black suit, white shirt, black tie, right? And they would come into the house, and this person's already in the house, and they will demand to know, especially like if this is a person that is talking about like that works on UFOs and things of that nature, and is trying to put the truth out there. They'll demand to know, to get all of the information that this person has on whatever this situation was, and after a while they lose steam and they're like, I have to leave to go recharge. and then they'll leave and they won't hear the door open, but the person will be gone. So there's like extra dimensional shit going on. Do you have folks that can teleport? But yeah, so like it's an interesting thing, but it all kind of just came about from like the Roswell incident was when you first started to hear about the Men in Black. And the Roswell incident, like the more that we find out about it, it's like, this is weird.
Whenever I hear things about that, I just, when I was younger, I just kind of poo-pooed it, laughed it off, ha ha ha, crackpot, whatever.
Yeah.
In the world we live in as an adult, like especially now, I'm not so quick to, there's a few things I'll just say, listen, man, really? But there's a few things I can make that, is it out of the realm of possibility?
Right.
And I will give it 2 seconds of thought. Right. 4 seconds of thought. And when people talk about the Man in Black, the, for instance, a lot of the creepypastas, the Polybius thing I was referencing was this game back in the 80s, which may have been a neurotransmitter style video game to hack your mind. And apparently it was a military issued game or concept as a means to torture and to mind control. Right. And to basically just F with the human body and the human mind. And of course this happened in the Northwest, supposedly, where it first originated. Because, Bigfoot's chilling up there too. Yep. And what wound up happening was, as soon as people were complaining about headaches and nausea and this, that, and the third, and their minds feeling all freaky deaky, Men in Black came and took the game out pretty much shortly after it was put in as a trial run. Right. Now, I've played enough video games to know that it can have an effect on your mind because it sucks you in, for lack of a better term. And I know how certain light patterns and sounds and frequencies can mess with the human body. Right. For instance, Lavender Town. Remember how the original Pokemon game, Lavender Town in Japan, apparently some kids were committing suicide because of it.
Then you also have like the epilepsy episode of Pokemon that they had to pull
about Porygon.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of things that like I went to school with a girl that had epilepsy. She had severe epilepsy. So and hers was triggered by flashing lights. So and the thing is, I remember when I was a kid, like my glasses, you can see the reflection on these now. Yes. And I always would get the coating on my glasses for like the sun stuff outside. So they were like kind of polarized. So they had a little bit of a reflective nature to them. And like, I remember when we were outside one time, I walked by and she had a seizure. Oh. And this happened with other kids that had glasses as well. And like when she didn't have the fall on the floor, but basically like her body would just kind of like lock up essentially for a while. And then she would come back out of it. But like, like these things can affect how we react. The human body's weird. We still don't know a lot about it. There are things that happen with the human body, just as well as just that happen in the world, that we still to this day can't explain. Like we can't explain why we have a lot of these things like residual evolutionary traits and stuff, like some people that have the double eye, like the second eyelid that can close over, or people that have vestigial tails, or other things that like we evolved past having these things a long time ago, essentially. Or like the second layer thing on the eye, it's called a nictitating membrane, but that is for like animals that go in the water and don't want to damage their eyes, or like if you are in an area where sand blows a lot, that membrane will keep your eyes from getting destroyed by sand that's blowing and stuff. So you have a lot of like weird stuff like that with the human body. But like when it comes to how it reacts to things, that's why you have a lot of games, they have to run testing on people to make sure that there are no negative effects. possible that they came up with a game that could do this? Possibly. Do I think they did back then? No, just because technology wasn't where it needed to be. Yet, could you do it now? Probably, yeah.
Oh, you most definitely can do it now.
You can absolutely do it now. And a lot of the stuff that like people said, you know, how there would be subliminal messages in records and stuff like that. Like if you flip a record, I remember they were like, yeah, if you flip like Black Sabbath record over and you play it backwards, it says like Hail Satan or whatever the fuck it is. You probably, and that's the thing too, like they probably did do that. Just like once you start to make a myth, I would capitalize on that shit immediately. But like, that's the thing. If you flip a record over or if you play anything backwards, it's going to sound crazy. It just is. And this is one of the things about the human mind. If you look for it, you will find it.
Yes.
So if you are looking to find something out of nothing, you will find it eventually.
Because that's what you focus on grows, as they say.
Exactly. So we have this thing all the time where you're like people essentially convince themselves that they have found these things. Right, you'll go over people's houses and be like, "Oh, they're like, yeah, I have this, that, and the other. You see what this? Do you see it in it?" And I'm like, "I don't see shit." And I've got, you know, I really don't see it. And I'm pretty good about picking details out of. You're like, "No, it's right there." It's like, no, it's not. It really isn't, bro. It's not. You are fucking wilding right now. But
well, it's like the Rorschach test,
right?
You know, it's what do you see in this ink blot? It's
right.
Like, well, your brain's
something completely different, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, is it possible? Sure. Probable? Not really. But with a lot of these things, like especially once this became a cultural thing, once it became part of the cultural zeitgeist, you're then going to have people that are going to actively, if this thing doesn't exist, they'll become it.
Right. They'll make it.
Right? So do I believe that there are people going around acting like the Men in Black? Abso-fucking-lutely. We all went to school with that one weird dude that created some character and became that fucking character. That's who he was, he and or she was in life. And, you know, it just is what it is. Like, just like how you see people online that have these personas and they become these personas essentially. So that's
like Twitter.
It's Twitter, yeah. So like that's what I see. Like that's what when I think like Men in Black, that's what I think most of the stuff is. Do I think the government covers up a lot of shit and has task force that do this shit? Yeah. Like we have the FBI and the CIA that handle a lot of shit that we will never know about. And that's not on some conspiracy theory shit. That's factual. So like, yeah, you have the Men in Black thing is probably one of the easiest things to, you know, there's just as much proof as there is like things that disprove that proof. So it's a constant back and forth for that one. You have others, like we've all heard about the whole flat earth thing. It's stupid. It's really dumb. There are certain, like the fact that like so many flat earth people go out and do tests to prove that the earth isn't flat, and they get disproven or they get killed while doing it. Old boy that wanted to prove that the earth was not flat and that he didn't believe in science but used science to create a rocket, which he fucked his back up the first time and then he fucking died the next time. I don't feel sorry for people like that. There is no rest in peace. You did what the fuck you did. Icarus flew too close to the sun, and this time the rocket just fucking fell to the ground. So there are so many of these things where you can like take people, like you can take things and go a far distance so that you can see. They're like, oh yeah, well, why can't I see the curve? It's like, I don't think you understand how small we are by comparison to the fucking earth. Even if you go miles in the air, you still will barely be able to see the curve. You have to be in space damn near to be able to see the curvature of the Earth. And they're like, oh, well, when you look at a GoPro, you got to use you got to use software. So, they use software to make it not look flat. I'm like, dude, that's a camera lens, dumbass. Like wide angle versus, more narrow angles, it looks very different. Like
Yes.
if I get like one of the, we'll say a 10 millimeter lens, hell no. Let's see, how many millimeters would that have to be? Yeah, so it'd be like a 10 millimeter lens or anything below like 14 millimeters. Shit is wide. Like I can show you. Matter of fact, there's a couple lenses they can actually see behind it. Ultra wide angle lens. There are lenses that are so huge, like super, super wide angle.
And before I forget, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the turtle.
Oh yeah, the turtle. We're going to the turtle after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like lenses like this, it's a 6 millimeter lens. And there are bigger.
Okay.
Right.
What am I looking at?
That is a 6 millimeter lens, right? When it's bowed out like that, that's what creates the curved look to pictures and stuff. Because it's taking in way more than what the human eye can see. Our eyes are usually between the 35 millimeter and 50 millimeter range. Those are like, if you look at the pictures and you look at what we see, typically this is what that would look like. But yeah, this is when people are like saying that stuff, is like, see, just I can explain this to you as a photographer, but like you're not going to want to listen to it. And the other thing too is if the Earth was flat and it was spinning like a disc, we would all be out in fucking space.
Gravity.
Well, not even, well, yeah, gravity, as well as just like, so here's a test for you, right? Take a Lego person and, and then go to a record player, turn on the record player. Or rather, now, don't turn it on yet. Put a Lego, use we'll say 3 Lego people. Put one right next to the middle portion of the record, one in the middle part, and one at the end. Turn on the record. The one on the end flies off immediately.
Right.
The one in the middle will fall and slowly get thrown off, but the one that's right next to the middle of the record won't move. Science. Like like there would be nothing on the edges of the Earth. Like how they come up with these dumbass things like, oh yeah, there's a fucking ring of ice around it. The ring of ice would fucking get thrown into space, stupid.
Yeah.
Or like, what was the other thing? They're like, I was like, so what happens? We'll say there's no ring of ice at the end. What does the ocean do? Does it just dump off into space?
It
like
spills off.
Is it like that? Is it like the fucking maps from the 15th century where there were fucking dragons and shit that and other fucking water creatures that are lurking in the depths, and then there's just a waterfall that comes off the side of the Earth?
It just falls off.
It just falls off. Or what is there like a system where it just sucks right back up underneath it? Like common sense, you dummies. Common fucking sense.
The world sewage system. Yeah.
Right. And like the other thing too is like when I try to explain folks to people like how small we are by comparison to the planet. If you take a grain of sugar or salt and put that on a globe, that's going to be higher. That where that grain is standing off of the globe, that's going, if you were to scale that to the size that it would be on the planet, that grain of salt or sugar would be higher than any fucking mountain that we have, and larger than damn near any mountain peak that we have. So it's like, you're not going to be able to see the fucking curve. We're not big enough. Like, perspective, people, stupids. But yeah, so there's that. Real quick,
you're talking about us being the specks, right?
The specks,
humans are a speck in terms of the universe. So, and apparently one other, I guess, conspiracy theory, if you want to call it, or just urban legend, is the one where, we're not even going to talk about Yggdrasil because, Norse mythology and all that stuff, but there's a better one.
Yeah.
Turtles. And it's not the Ninja Turtles.
No, it's the world turtle.
It's the world turtle.
Yes. So,
and by all accounts, the world turtle is us as people, and the world is sitting atop.
It's like 6. So we're sitting on top of the backs of, so there's like, usually it's a half globe or a flat disc resting on the backs of like 6 elephants, 6 cosmic elephants that are standing on the back of a gigantic turtle flying through space.
Wait, it's through space?
Through space, yeah, flying. And this turtle is,
Okay, I'm gonna look this up. Hold on, while you're talking, I'm like looking up world turtle right now. No.
Yeah, the world turtle, bro. The world turtle. It is some of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. I'll pull up.
Yeah, I'm looking at a quick photo of it, black and white. There's elephants, what looks to be a brontosaurus, holding up a half a globe.
Yep.
And on top of that is a turtle.
Yeah. Let me show this. Share this screen.
A fucking world turtle.
Yeah. So this is the world turtle.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at. Exactly.
Yeah. So all of these are these cosmic elephants that you have holding up that's on the back of this turtle. You have some more,
floating through space. You have to be higher than giraffe ass than to come up with that type of shit, bro. Like, it's common sense. Well, common sense isn't common, so that's a thing that we've come to realize over the in life. But yeah, so you have like the world turtle, and there are in India, there is myth of something similar, as well as in China, there's also mythology of something like that. North America also, amongst the indigenous tribes, have a lot of these things. But like in the current day, we've gone out into space. We know what the fuck it is. We've seen, you can actively go and look at satellite stuff right now, and you can see the fucking globe, as it is. So we know that we're not right on this gigantic back of a turtle. And then there's one other one, which is the hollow earth theory. What?
So yeah, so you have a lot of these. I mean, there's a lot of books about this stuff, like where you would go inside. Basically, you go inside the crust of the earth, and there's a world under there. So it's like
the mole people,
or like the Time Machine. Is that the book that was the Time Machine, or like they went back in time, I think it was, and there was like these creatures living inside of the earth. But basically, like, you have these people that believe that if you go inside the earth, right? So you've got the earth itself. Let me get this real quick. All right, let me share that.
Let me see this.
Right.
What is this?
Right. So you have the world: North America, New York, Mexico, South America, South Pole, Australia, India, China, Siberia, and North Pole. Right. So that's the outside of the planet. And then there's the crust of the earth. And then inside of that is a whole other fucking world. Some people believe that there are dinosaurs there and other wild, fantastical things. You have people that think that the dinosaurs, you have people that think that the dinosaurs, to escape the mass extinction, which there were multiple mass extinctions in this, when it comes to the Earth, it's happened more times like than we can find proof of, because it's when the Earth is tired of doing shit, it'll reset. Like it will take its controller and go home and just completely start a new game. So you have folks that were like, oh well, the dinosaurs to escape, like when the asteroid came, because the thing is, when the asteroid came, a lot of people tend to think the asteroid hit and then all the dinosaurs immediately died.
That was a wrap.
Not how it happened. When the asteroid hit, of course, the stuff in the direct vicinity, all that shit's gone. Like that's enough. That's more energy than many nuclear blasts put together. But what happened was it threw sediment and things into the atmosphere and basically blocked out the sun. When that happens, shit dies. Shit just dies. Mammals were one of the few things that evolved thus far that could live in these kinds of conditions, and that is how we were able to evolve and turn into all these other things, because we replaced the giant, fauna that had died due to this event. So you have folks to say, well, in order to escape this cloud, they ventured deeper into the earth. And inside of once they found this new land inside the earth, they started to evolve. So some people think that there are actually that there are humanoid things that evolved from reptiles.
Oh, the lizard people. Oh, goodness.
So, and lizard people pop up in a bunch of different fucking conspiracy theories and myths and shit like that. But yeah, it's weird shit. It's fun to read about. Do I believe it? No. Is it fun?
I spent a lot of my time just looking at, like you said, kind of just gazing at it, looking it over really quick, perusing it,
right?
But not taking more than a grain of salt with a lot of it.
Right.
I've learned in life, whenever new information is brought to the surface or information you may find to be different, you sift through,
right,
and you make the best guess considering.
Right.
You don't take everything as gospel,
right,
because we're human and we're not infallible, so we will make mistakes. But at the same token, it is the people that are sycophants who will tell that if they hear something or find out something, and they will die on the hill. They will die on that hill constantly.
Like the fact that folks will just sit there and just go like the thing is, like, especially when you have people, this is why they become so. It becomes religion to them, essentially.
Yes,
it becomes so important to their lives that even if they get proven wrong, they don't want to let go of that.
No.
You see this a lot with cults and cult leaders. Even though the cult leader will be shown to be a trash bag of a human being, sexually abusing men, women, and children, having all types of other disgusting proclivities, and people, it will get shown to their followers, and some of the followers will be like, I don't believe it. This is whomsoever coming against us. So instead of taking the information and then moving forward with it, they double down, triple down.
Oh, defiance. Lovely.
Right. So same thing, same kind of thing happens here, especially when you have folks that have spent a lot of their lives studying these things, reading about these things. When the stuff's disproven, they don't want to let go of that, because say you've been studying something for, you're 45 years old and this has been a major part of your life for 30 years.
Right.
What do? If you take something that's been a major part of your life for 30 years, like, did that 30 years, was that for nothing?
Was it a waste?
Was it a waste? And a lot of folks will see that and be like, no, it wasn't a waste. I can prove that this is real. If I just study hard enough and keep to whatever it was long enough, I'm gonna find the truth. And a lot of times it's just like, nah, we can't, it's not gonna happen. Like I talked about last week with like Loch Ness Monster. They've run so many tests that it's just, we know what's in the loch at this point. I remember I think it was like in the 80s and the 90s, they've done this multiple times, basically where they took a line of boats as wide, almost as wide as the loch was, and ran over with high-powered sonar gear to map what was in the water. And when they found these blips that looked like there was something large, they would then go down and see what it was. It was always a giant rock or a dead log or something of that nature, right? We know that there are channels that lead to other lochs in the area, but even then, those are too small for a large animal to move through freely, especially something like a plesiosaur, which is one of the things that people think. They need air. There's no air in these channels that go into other things. There's no air pockets really, or if there are air pockets, they aren't big enough to, hold the amount of air that something that large would need. I said the other day, there's not enough food in the loch to feed something that big. If you have a plesiosaur or anything that's that large, to sustain its body, it's going to need tens of thousands of calories per day. And you're not going to get that in a loch where there's barely fish. There are schools of fish, but there's not enough of them to feed a gigantic monster.
Right.
So common sense to stuff, but you still have people that are just like, no, I've seen it. And there are natural phenomenon that happen in lakes and rivers and water specifically. And the thing about the water is it plays with your eyes. You can never trust the water, ever trust what you see on water. It is so easy because especially if it's sunny outside, the reflection from the sun will create all types of illusions that you think you saw in the water, but you don't. That's one of the reasons why they tell you you don't trust your eyes when you are navigating in a boat, because things can change. The water can rise, fall. The glare off of the water may look like it's farther away than it actually is. And it just, all types of things, fucking gravity. The way that gravity works in different areas of the world is just due to like magnetism and shit like that, like where the poles are and stuff will fuck with how, things look. That's why we have like Aurora Borealis and things like that in the North Poles, because fucking the world's huge and there's energies that we can't control and shit, right?
Right.
So like I know since my mom's from Bermuda, and when I go back each summer, my cousin has a boat now. So we were coming back from when we went out to go fishing. And like I remembered coming back, I was like, oh yeah, it's that way. He's like, yeah, nah, that's not going to work right now. Because to me, it looked the same, but I'm not used to being on the water like that. He is. And he was like, yeah, he's like, this, I can't go through quick because there are reefs everywhere. I can't use sight for this. You have to use you essentially just kind of know what stuff is. You learn the path, not by looking at the water, but by looking where you are in orientation to the actual land and such. So it's a whole, it's a lot. So,
okay.
So like when you have a lot of these things, you can't trust your eyes with stuff. So like what is just like a wave can look like a, giant serpent moving through the water, but it's actually just a wave.
Just the waves.
Yeah, just because like when a wave curls over, it then has like a tubular body and will sometimes it'll even have like humps because you have multiple, like the wave, it doesn't all crash all at the one time. It, some comes and then it's slow. So like you are out on, you're at home and you look down at the fucking water and you see this long thing that looks like it's moving at a high rate of speed across the water, it's just a wave, you know? Or if the water is super calm and an otter swims by, the trail that's left behind the otter is long as fuck.
Long gone.
It's right, but like the otter's gone. It's, you know, the otter's up here, but you can still see the trail in the water 10, 20, 30 feet back because the water was still before it broke the surface of the water. So like you have all of this stuff, or if you have multiple animals swimming back to back to back, like otters are communal animals. So you might have 7 otters swimming near each other, and you have that, it's going to look like the humps on the back of animals. So it's like you have all of these things where it's like, oh yeah, this is just a natural phenomenon. But in order to make sense of it, human brain does wild shit.
And I think that's what we've kind of figured out in this episode, is that the human mind will make anything make sense if they put the most effort to it that they possibly can. As I said before, what you focus on grows. And I think honestly, just with all these theories, with all these passionate people who really believe in whatever theories that they put their faith in, you can go down that rabbit hole of things that people put their faith in, cults, religion, and the like, which we will talk about another day. The mind, what was it? The Ghetto Boy said, my mom's playing tricks on me.
My mom's playing tricks on me. Shit is true.
That's as plain as you can put it.
Yeah, like it is. It's one of those things. Like it's the human mind will always. I forgot the actual term, but next episode I'll find out what it is and I'll tell you. You know, give it the name. But basically, like when your mind will try to make sense of things that go on in the background, right?
Yes.
So like if there's white noise, specifically white noise tends to drive the mind mad, trying to figure out what the fuck it is. So like places that are haunted and such, almost always are near flowing water or other areas where there's a low frequency noise. And your mind will be like, I don't know what the fuck that is. So it's going to start
trying
to rationalize things. And then you're like, oh, that was a voice because you heard it one time. What was that? Then you start to think about it over and over and over again. Yeah, it was definitely a voice. Now your brain says, okay, it was a voice. I'm going to continue hearing voices.
Yes.
So because that white noise is continuing to happen. So yeah, it's one of those things, and all of this is science, and you can look it all up. It's not made up stuff. It is all things based in reality.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. That's the old phrase. And I think on that note, that's a good time for us to wrap things up here on Damian and DEO. We've covered a lot. By my recollection, we hit like 5-6 separate things, and things I didn't know, to be quite honest. And again, I know usually things that Damian doesn't know is a little bit more jovial, but I still appreciate the knowledge because, look, especially with the flat Earth and the world turtle, and those are things I appreciate knowing, only to say, that's something people think about.
Yeah. And one quick thing, while my initials are actually DEO, one of the other things that stands for DEO is the Department of Extra Normal Operations in DC Comics. So when on Fridays, that's the DEO that you get.
That's the DEO. Oh, great. Just that's good. Good to know. And as he just stated, you can find him on social media. I'm just DEO. That's funny. And you can find me at DamianG347 on Twitter, as well as Coach Damian G. Actually, no, Damian G Show on Instagram, and DamianG347 on my personal page. Anchor.fm, thank you again for sponsoring this episode. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/look up Damian G Show, and you'll find a lot of our wrestling talk, a lot of our recent BS talk, old episodes of High Mark and Podcast Champs, as well as all my old episodes of when I started this really odd wrestling broadcasting journey all the way back in 2016. And with that, everybody stay safe. Wash your hands, wash your ass. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your nose without washing outdoors. Wear a mask, okay? Let me get to 1 minute. Wear a mask. All y'all people out here walking around acting as if the last 2 months was a dream and it never happened. This ain't Dallas, like the show. It happened. Or what is it? Who shot JR? It actually happened. It was not just a dream. Okay.
Right.
I know Dallas outside where I live, motherfuckers acting as if nothing happened. Wear a mask. Wear gloves. Don't be. Why are people showing up with like 12 people at a restaurant? Stop it.
Yep. And the thing too with the masks, we're not wearing masks to protect ourselves. We're wearing masks to protect everybody else.
Yeah.
No mask is going. There are no masks sold to the public that are going to protect us from a virus. One, if you have an N95, like one of the really, really, really good ones, that has to be specially fitted to you.
Yeah.
One. The other thing, you cannot have facial hair because any gaps in between the mask and your face are going to let the virus in.
Mm-hmm.
So all these, like, I had to get into this with my mom. She's like, I got an N95 mask off of Amazon. I was like, no, you didn't. She's like, yeah, I did. It said on the thing. I was like, Mom, I know for a fact right now, you have to have a medical license. You have to be medical personnel to get any kind of N95 masks on Amazon right now. You actually cannot get authentic N95 mask. She swore up and down to me. So I was like, send me a picture of it. Sent her, and I was like, oh, that's a fake one. No, it's not fake. I sent her a link from the CDC stating that that specific mask that she had was a fake. Then she got mad at me. I was like, I told you should have asked me first before you bought the shit. Now you are $45 in the hole for these handful of masks that you got. But like, yeah, like it's not to keep the virus from coming in, because the way that I see a lot of y'all wearing masks, that wouldn't protect anybody. Like I was at the store the other day and dude had a mask on. So you had it up here, but he had a beard. So he didn't want to mess his beard up. So the strings were just hanging down. So the mask was just resting over his beard.
It wasn't.
Didn't even have it tied down. No. He wanted that beard to flourish. So he just had the mask flapped down over his mouth. This is another one that I saw. If you've ever seen like what the Japanese, like old school Japanese like anime and stuff is, like they had when somebody was like a burglar, they would tie like a black thing across their nose so they wouldn't be, so people wouldn't know. Dude was walking around. This looked like dude had one, like he had like a camouflage bandana over his nose, tied up. I was like, you can still fucking breathe. The reason that we are wearing masks right now is to keep whatever we have inside of our bodies off of surfaces and also within the air, right?
Yes.
You have a mask on to catch as many of the particulates coming out of your body as possible. That's the whole reason that we're wearing masks right now. Not wearing a mask because I don't want to get the virus. I'm wearing a mask because if I have the virus, I don't want to. If I'm asymptomatic, and asymptomatic means I have the virus, but I don't have any of the symptoms of the virus. If I'm asymptomatic, I don't want to spread that to other people just because I feel fine. It's the whole reason. Exactly. We're trying to help each other out. That's how you flatten the curve. And now people are just flooding back out there. America is going to have the craziest second wave. Like the craziest second wave of this virus compared to other places. We already have more cases than any other place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We already, like, I'm pretty sure we probably have more deaths already. And we're supposed to be the #1 country in the world. We're supposed to have the best of everything. We're supposed to be the leader, but we are like doing the worst out of any country.
We stupid.
Yeah. Shout out to Orange Mussolini.
Humans. That's all I'm gonna say is humans. And on that note, bye everybody, because I'm heated. So bye.
Yeah.
Because y'all don't know how to act. Can't deal with you.